Now, you listen to the Jesse Kelly Show. Nothing I tell you right now is going to surprise you at all. But we're going to talk about this because it is going to surprise your friend, Normie Norm, your neighbor, the guy who half pays attention, but he's too busy with the NFL draft. Joe Biden is a very corrupt man. We talked about this at length last night, but just, again, real briefly here. Very early on, you can tell Joe Biden figured out that he can use his positions of power in the Senate, vice president, now president, to make money. And how do you do that? Well, you don't do it directly. You don't tell someone, I'm going to pass this law, and then you hand me a briefcase with $100,000 in it. That's not how that works. What you do is, as a senator, vice president, whatever the case may be, you are given discretion over how some funds are handed out, oftentimes huge quantities of funds. And maybe at one point you're offered, hey, here's $1 billion. You can send it to Ukraine, and you can maybe specify that it has to be used in Ukraine's energy sector. And so you say, okay. And what you do is you have a friend of a friend call a guy who knows a guy, and you make sure a company or two in Ukraine's energy sector knows that you're going to be sending them money, and you expect your dirtball crackhead son to get a very, very, very lucrative job, no work, all pay, and that's the condition that's going to get you the money. And so the back channel people work their magic, and soon you're Joe Biden, and you're sending gobs of money to Ukraine's energy industry. At the same time, your son gets an $80,000+ a month job with an energy company and no energy experience. This has been the Joe Biden political career. In many ways, they are as corrupt as the Clintons were, just not as sexy. And when I say not as sexy, I mean the Clintons would just have a bunch of people killed, allegedly. The Bidens just do old run-of-the-mill bribery. That's all, run-of-the-mill bribery. And this is stuff that has been known in political circles for the longest time. The Bidens, they will use Joe Biden's position of power to enrich Joe Biden through his family members. Remember, the family members get a generous quantity of that money, but you always have to send a cut up to, what was it called? The big man. The big man, Joe Biden. Now, we know all this. Again, you know all this. You get it. You get it. Your neighbor, Normie Norm, doesn't get it. Right now, he's probably rolling his eyes if you're explaining this to him, calling you a conspiracy theorist, but you know these things to be true. None of this is news to you. Which brings us to today. Grassley and Comer. You see, these are senators. Grassley's a senator. Comer's in the House. We're talking about oversight. And what they have discovered is, well, I'll let it be explained here.
Hi, John. Good afternoon. The House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer says that he's issued a subpoena to the FBI in a letter that he and Senator Chuck Grassley have sent to Attorney General Merrick Garland and FBI Director Chris Wray. They write that a, quote, highly credible whistleblower says the Justice Department and FBI have a form that, quote, describes an alleged criminal scheme involving then-President Biden and a former national relating to the exchange of money for policy decisions. It's been alleged that the document includes a precise description of how the alleged criminal scheme was employed, as well as its purpose. Now, Comer and Grassley provide no information on the identity of the whistleblower, what specifically they're alleging. In short, it's a subpoena for a document that an unidentified whistleblower says exists and shows illegal activity. It is unclear yet how the Justice Department will respond. We have reached out, John.
Okay, now let's clarify a couple things. One, I don't know if that guy misspoke or just was misinformed. This was not then President Joe Biden. This was Vice President Joe Biden. So this took place while Barack Obama was president. Joe Biden was vice president. You still with me? Now, what is the document? He laid it out what it is, but here's what you need to know and what your neighbor, more specifically Normie Norm, needs to know. There was an investigation conducted by the FBI while Barack Obama was president. The investigation was not an investigation into Joe Biden. It was not an investigation into Joe Biden. Joe Biden, however, came up in the course of the investigation. This has happened before. This will happen again. But the important thing for all of us to know is this. The FBI, in the course of its investigation into someone else, something else, came across, allegedly, hard, fast proof. It sounds like the whole scheme is laid out. You will hire him. I will send money to you. You will send money back here. The whole thing was laid out on a piece of paper. The Federal Bureau of Investigation got in possession of that piece of paper and promptly buried it. Set it down. Now, none of that is shocking, again, to you. Honestly, you're probably shrugging your shoulders right now. How often have we talked about these things on the Jesse Kelly Show? You know these things. None of this is news to you. You're the top 1% of informed voters in the country. But this is one of those moments where we, the hyper-informed, the tip of the spear, this is a prime moment to inform Normie Norm, not about Joe Biden and his corruption. He probably already has accepted that. This is a prime time to inform your neighbor, Normie Norm, that the Federal Bureau of Investigation is a frightening entity now, on par with the Soviet Cheka, and the moderate position is the complete disbandment of the FBI. It's time. This is a prime opportunity to let Normie Norm know that the America he thinks he lives in, the America maybe he even used to live in, depending on how old he is, that America is gone, and we have to start conducting ourselves accordingly. Now, what's it mean for Joe Biden and the presidency? You already know my thoughts. I've made my thoughts very, very clear. I know, an outlandish theory, and I don't have any inside info on it. This is just a theory. I predict that Joe Biden is not actually going to run for president in 2024. I believe the system wants him out. But you see, you can't just go tap him on the shoulder and say, no more president for you. Get out. It's politics. It's a game of power. You have to have some sort of leverage over Joe Biden. What better leverage than walking into the Oval Office and saying, Joe, hey, we really like this Gavin Newsom guy, and your brain is melted goo, so we need you to leave, and we'll actually let you leave, but you need to leave now. And Joe will say no, and he'll say, okay, well, we have a lot of documentation proving you and really most of your family to be criminals. We can make this go away if you go away, or we can pursue it. Your call, Joe. And then Joe retires and goes to start planning his presidential library. That's how I see it going. We'll see if I'm correct. Do you enjoy watching that? Would you like some more of me? Good. Go subscribe to my YouTube channel. You will enjoy it.